Hello, I'm Quinny. Welcome to the channel. In this video today, guys, we're going to be going through my strategy for the Euro Challenger region. It's been a hot topic right across the SoRare spectrum over the last month or so, it feels like. It's ever growing. We're getting new SO5 scored leagues added into it. We're getting new licenses dropped in, more clubs, more players, more dilution. What is the best strategy going forward? What strategy have I been using? Am I changing it? What's going on? What strategy do I recommend new users have? All these things and more, guys, are in the video today. If at any point you have some fun, you learn something, whatever, please do me a massive favour and smash that thumbs up button down below for me. It goes a long way to helping the channel grow, and I thank you in advance if you do that. Stay out of trouble, guys, and let's get stuck into it. Now, first of all, there's two main profiles of challenger cards I'm always attracted to, okay? The main one that I think attracts most people to the region is the burgeoning young talent. You know, if you look at the Belgian league's a massive feeder, particularly into France, but pretty much all of Europe. The Dutch league has got an incredible, what's the word? Prestige within the game for producing players and all that kind of stuff as well. It is the big three teams in Portugal, of course, massive feeder teams to the elite of European football. And then, you know, in this day and age, we're getting lots of hot prospects really popping up all over Europe. The Austrian league, which is just on board, is another league that is exploited for the loan system to get guys first team opportunities, as well as what was the other one I was just thinking about? Turkey, we're getting some loans moving into there. We've seen Galatasaray and Fenerbahce in recent years get some decent profile loans in themselves. But these are, number one, the challenger cards I'm the most interested in is ones that are burgeoning young talent. You know, guys that are rocking through it, PSV, Benfica, you know, Ajax, these types of clubs, Anderlecht, of course. They're the main ones that I'm always going to be thinking about, because what these guys will do is they will have a career. You know, if when you're buying a young player, let's say we're jumping across regions, okay? If you're buying a young hot prospect from, let's say, Gamba Osaka, right? Or you're buying a young hot prospect from, let me think, Columbus Crew, or you're buying a hot young prospect from Anderlecht, you've got you can buy a young prospect from Anderlecht with a lot more certainty. You know, all other factors aside, on the basis of that individual club's track record in producing professional footballers, if that makes sense. So it's a lot more fun to engage in that sense as well, because you're not taking, in the broad term of things, as much of a gamble, because you know, these guys will play a wee bit of Europa League football, maybe a wee bit of Champions League, and now we've got this new Conference League thing, you know, that kind of European shop window, if you like, is now open and available to many more cards on the platform. But for me, this is the main, I'm thinking about buying a challenger card. That's the first thing I think about, is it an exciting young guy? And if it's no, then I move on to my next kind of profile of player for Challenger Euro that I tend to gravitate towards. And that is guys that are in on loan from bigger teams. Now, the Challenger region, I've not actually got a lot of them here on screen at the moment, because some of them I might have sold, or their loan might have actually expired and they're now in another region. But the Challenger region does, because it does bring in a lot of loans, like Noah Ohio, for example. It was Challenger last year, he's Challenger this year, is on loan from Leipzig to last year Vitesse, this year Austria Vienna. Palaversa, quite similar, is on loan from Man City. Yedlin was on loan from Newcastle. I don't know if that's been made permanent or not, but you get the point. You know, there's a lot of loans, a lot of good loans from bigger teams. Grujic was on loan from Liverpool last year, now signed in a permanent. So these types of things I find attractive, because if I look at my Champion Euro contingent, you'll see, I know I've got Nemeka, who's going to ring out to me right away. Dorsch, who's moved from Challenger to Champion. And is there anyone else? Nemeka's my big favourite one, of course, because he's a super. Previously Sorloth, I know it's not went too well. We'll see what happens. He's been linked heavily to Marseille. And Kamada, you know, so I've got a few guys in that kind of situation, I suppose. And Van Hoosen, Diatta, and yeah, that'll be it. So I've got a few guys that kind of fit that mould. If I was really going hunting for them, I've just sold an Odilon, who's went from Bruges to Leverkusen. So these types of transfers do happen quite often, and it can be, if it is someone who transfers from Challenger to Champion, brilliant. If it's someone who's on loan from Champion into Challenger, that's great as well, because you've got that good kind of, you know, the the ripcords on them at the end of the season. If it goes bad or they don't do well or whatever, they go back to a bigger team and maybe they'll get a chance there, maybe get another loan that'll be successful for them at a better team, different league, different nation, whatever. So they're the two primary profiles I look for. Now, why is that my strategy? It's my strategy quite simply because the Challenger region has always been the most crowded. No matter, it's always been kind of in a scale, of course. At the moment, there's just so much choice, there's so much options that you can get snowed under with it. But in my opinion, it's always been the most crowded. The Challenger region as well, right? When you're entering into Challenger region, the prizes you number one, the Challenger region for me is always thus far been the most liquid on the secondary market. So if you're looking to sell some cards into the market for profit, guys that are good, tier 1 Challenger Euro cards do have a very vibrant market. Tier 2 Challenger cards also have a very vibrant secondary market, and tier 3s are quite hit and miss, but you will find a lot of guys will be shopping in tier 3s and Challenger because they maybe have a couple of tier 1s, a tier 2, a playing goalkeeper, whatever in that region already. So this has all kind of come up again quite recently because we've had the introduction of the Austrian League. The Swiss League is now scored. We've got Sion on boarded as well as the Austrian division as a whole, of course, and there is still this elusive one more new division to come on. Is it a Challenger region? Is it Scotland? What will happen with that? But as it becomes more visibly crowded and much more visibly densely populated with cards, choices, goalkeepers, backups, prospects, starting strikers, box-to-box midfielders, exciting fullbacks, rock-solid centre-backs, they're everywhere now across that region. You've got much more choice. So, number one, hopefully, that will kind of suppress a little bit of the premium that you get on maybe the out-and-out Challenger players, the guys that are there forever, they're never going to kick on or whatever. They, it might kind of, nerf that a little bit. But what it should give you the opportunity to do is get big guys that you do like, because when I started, it was only Belgium. And I can remember thinking at that point in time, imagine that you could have all these teams on, and these teams in the Challenger region was all I'd have that midfielder, I'd get that striker, I'd get that goalkeeper. That would be my Challenger teams. That's always the way I think. I always like to pull pieces from all over the place to make a super team. That's what I love doing. And now the more options we have in Challenger, you will be able to do that at a much more cost-effective rate as time goes on. Now, the rewards you win, like I've already mentioned, of course, can be good market fodder to get you up and running in the market, maybe action some trades off the back of it, or liquidate, sell them into the market, get some raw ETH and, do as you please with that. But equally as well, it can give you the opportunity in that region to win really good prospect cards. Guys like Denzel Dumfries is over 23. You could have easily won him in Challenger last year. He was like a tier 1 card for the most part, maybe even tier 2. He's just moved to Inter Milan to replace Hakimi, and he's going to be their starting right back next year. So getting cards like that in through Challenger, it can be your backdoor entry into Champion. If you're picking up especially strikers and midfielders that move on and make a career for themselves in another region. So that kind of end game is always what I'm thinking about. I want to either be getting cards that I can sell into the market with relatively little hassle, and I'm not worried about them all going for big, stupid peak prices or whatever. I know they are what they are. People need them for games and want to get stuck in, and I'm happy to move them on. And or I want guys that I'm happy to keep, who I'm happy to follow through their career on SO5, but with them being on that profile of, the guys I'm keeping and using are guys that are exciting young prospects coming through, like good academies that have got a track record, or they're guys on loan from a mega team. Maybe it's Man City. I quite like Man City, as you've probably gathered, and Leipzig at this point. Or, other kind of situations. I picked up a Matt Miazga last season, who's on loan from Chelsea to Anderlecht, and he's just transferred on a free transfer to Alaves. So SO5 wise, we'll see how good a move that is. Alaves have been quite a defensive team, so a big defender like that who will be heading balls clear, whatever, blah blah blah. That might turn to be a good move. But that's a Challenger card on loan from a big team, and it's not even went back to the big team. He's got another transfer to somebody else in the Champion Euro region, so that's the kind of mould I'm looking for. Young, hot prospects or guys on loan is my main nub, my main core. Another guy I've got, I showed you earlier, is Marko Grujic. He has had his transfer made permanent to Porto, and he had a few injuries last year. He didn't play too much, but he did play, he did look good. And I definitely got that feeling towards the end of the season. He was playing more, he was playing well, that they did want to keep him. So I've got a guy on the cheap who wasn't playing because he was on loan at a team that he wasn't actually even playing for either. Even though he had a good, this is where my kind of background in buying that card kicks in. I knew he had a great season at Hertha, and if Porto were picking him up, it was to play him and make him a regular kind of main guy in the team. They've made the transfer permanent. He stayed there now. So I've now got what could be a very good card in Champion as a midfielder that I got for, relative pennies. Because as you know, the guys that are the key performers for the teams like Porto, whether it be like a Zenit or an Ajax, a PSV, Feyenoord, the list goes on. Those guys are always dear because you can play them so effectively in Global All-Star as well as the Challenger region itself. But what I'm specifically talking about with you today, of course, just to be crystal clear, is the actual guys I get in to my Challenger entries itself. In terms of goalkeepers, I actually, right before recording, just sold Odysseus. So I'd had Odysseus in the team that I'd got when he was out the team, blah, blah, blah. That's not really important. But I'm now kind of relying on Horvath, maybe a wee bit of Van der Voort action for Challenger. And I might go in Trubin, potentially. But I'm thinking about going and picking up a cheaper little Challenger goalkeeper. I just sold a Van Osh recently as well. Maybe should have kept him. I've still got Schubert. I still have some options there. If Horvath gets into the Forest team, then brilliant. I've got 2 of them sitting there nailed on to play. That's lovely. That'll do me. But otherwise, I'm happy to go and get a little cheap goalkeeper who play for the shittest team in Austria for all I care. It doesn't really matter. Because I would just be dropping in these guys as an entry in the hope of maybe winning a little bit of market fodder or some more of the guys that fit the profile of my Challenger region strategy. Now, let's take a wee step back for a second, okay? A lot of people watching this video potentially, Challenger Euro might be your mainstay division. And in which case, most of the things I said are still absolutely true in the sense that, you can get a backdoor into Champion Euro, you can get some good flips on for a lot of the stuff we've already spoke about, of course, but also you will hold in a higher regard, so you might go that extra mile with some of your acquisitions, and that's perfectly fine. But the one thing I would always throw back to you is those top-end Challenger cards for me, the tippy top end, and when I look at my gallery, I am thinking like Jordan Larson, Vlasic, Sangar, my top Challenger cards for Sharon. These guys are Global All-Star and under 23 cards for me all day long. I always prioritise those 2 competitions over the Challenger region itself. And I would say if you're getting into that stage and you can build yourself up really comfortably in Challenger in that respect, be competitive, get towards the top division or the top of the leaderboards, all the rest of it. But if you actually take a little kind of step back and pause and recoil for a second, you'll also kind of realise that you've got much more going on. And if you moved maybe one more piece in and out the club, reinforce a defender, or you got let's say you get a cheap Asia defender, you get a cheap Champion Euro midfielder, with that goalkeeper and those 2 powerhouse strikers you've got, Global All-Star D3, D4, whatever, could become a much better option for you. And when you're in that category, you're not just going to be potentially winning champion cards. Of course, for many of you, the pitfall is the potential to win some Asia cards, which you're probably not as enamoured with. Maybe a wee bit less so for the MLS, but you really want to be winning Challenger and Champion Euro cards. Well, in Global, you can win all of that, of course, and you can't take the good with the bad, the rough with the smooth, and all that. But it's something I would, when you're getting towards the top of Challenger in terms of the cards that you're fishing and you're fighting with, is you should be definitely considering those global competitions that aren't bound by region. I hope you've enjoyed the video today, guys. About to pop on screen now is a few other videos I've made that YouTube thinks you might like as well. Like, subscribe, share, retweet, all that good stuff, guys. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's the time.